Hey guys, today's topic in regards to this video is about my caretaker, being legally blind, visually impaired, blind, whatever legal you want to label it. I have a severe eye condition that my vision cannot be corrected with any type of glasses, contacts, surgery, things of that nature. It's degenerative in nature. So it does get worse over time, progressively worse, and at this time, there's no cure. I have a whole slew of videos about my eye condition, so definitely check out my channel and watch those videos. But anyway, I kind of wanted to focus on the caretakers, your support system. We don't talk a lot about them, and my caretaker or my support person is my husband. They need their own support too. In the beginning, I had a lot more vision, so my husband did not have to do a lot of things for me. But I got to a point of my disability that I can no longer drive. And I no longer have a driver's license. I now only have a state issue ID. So I found myself being very, very dependent on him for everything. It got to the point that I was walking into walls, tripping over everything. It got really, really bad, and we weren't prepared for it. He never had to take care of a significant other before, and it was a huge life adjustment. Now, for some, I can't speak for everybody, just my own experience, obviously, but it strained our marriage because he became responsible for a lot of things that me as an independent woman, when I first met him, I took care of myself. I did a lot of things myself. So to have that shift was really, really eye-opening. So I just kind of wanted to highlight the families and the support system and husbands and wives and children. Everyone is affected by my disability. So like I said, I no longer drive, so my husband drove me everywhere. And it got to the point when I first was diagnosed, I did not leave the house. I was scared to leave the house. I became basically a hermit. I didn't want to face people. I actually didn't want to accept my diagnosis. I was in denial about it. And he pushed me. He pushed me to get Roxy, my guide dog. He pushed me to get orientation and mobility. In a good way. He motivated me. He's like, hey, you need to get your independence. This is just one facet of your senses that's no longer working properly. Does not mean you can't do anything. And I had to go through the grieving process, and I'm still going through the grieving process, because having sight, and then all of a sudden, for majority of my life, all my life, till recently 6 years ago, was a huge shock to my system. So I had to go through the anger, the grief, the denial, all that stuff before I even accepted my diagnosis. So there was a level of frustration to the people that supported me. It's like, hey, your doctor told you this, you know this, let's be proactive. But I wasn't there yet. I had to go through my own process and accept it. And that can be extremely frustrating for your caretakers and your support system. But you're kind of on your own bubble, and you're dealing with your own emotional storm, and you're not really thinking about other people than yourself. I became very, very me-centric. I became selfish now that I look back on it. But I had to be able to go through that process, and unfortunately, if you have a caretaker that's a family member and not someone that is a patient assistant or anything like that, a PA, it can really strain those relationships, because obviously they love you and they hate to see you going through something like this, but they also kind of want to, like, hey, I'm here too, it's affecting me too, you know, can we meet halfway? And with me, in the beginning, I did not meet my husband halfway at all. I kind of basically felt like everything was going to hell in a handbasket, and I went to really, really deep depression. And I still have bouts of depression. because like I said, it's a transition to a different lifestyle. But I just wanted to make this video for my husband to, one, say thank you for when you first met me being diagnosed with this eye condition and not running for the hills. Because it takes someone with courage and strength to love and help someone with a disability, because you have to have patience on both sides. There will be frustrations, there will be arguments. I'm an enigma. Sometimes I get mad because you're doing too much for me, and then other times I get pissed in the next hour because you're not helping me enough. And to be part of my emotional roller coaster, it takes a really, really strong person. So if whoever your caretaker is, if it's, like I said, a family member, a person that is paid from a doctor's office or a hospital, like a PA, a patient assistant, doesn't matter. They too need a support system. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work and commitment. So make sure that they're going to have some emotional things happening to them as well. Don't be too surprised if they also go into a bout of depression, of anxiety, of frustration, of trying to find resources to help you become more independent. They become not only your cheerleader and teacher and confidant and helper, but then they also have their job. They have, you know, if you have kids, they got to take care of everybody else. You're just not the only one. So, I don't know, I think it's important that they get support too in support groups. There are support groups out there. Or if you are part of a low vision blind group, which I am, they can come along and they can hear other people, how they deal with certain things and what to expect. They need space. You have to become independent, because push comes to shove, look, God forbid, that person may not be there all the time, you know. So you have to learn the skills to cook, to clean, to be able to use other transportation. So in the beginning, he used to have to drive me everywhere. But now I use Uber, I use Lyft, I use our paratransit public transportation busing system. Because I know not everybody has like fare to always call an Uber. But definitely check out your local public transportation, because they usually have the ADA paratransit system as well, along with that program. So definitely check it out. You kind of have to be your own advocate too. You can't always put that title on your loved ones or your caretaker to be the advocate for you all the time. There's going to be times that you're going to fall apart and they're going to be there for you, obviously. But there's going to be times that you need to pull up your bootstraps and figure shit out by yourself. I remember one day that I burnt myself 5 times. I burnt myself 5 times on the stove, and I got so frustrated and I refused to cook. And if it wasn't going through vocational rehab, which my husband was a huge cheerleader and advocate to get me in that program, to learn the skills of how to relearn everything with the lack of sight, I can't imagine I will be still stuck in that place. So I just basically wanted to do a quick video for saying thank you for all the families, the mamas, the papas, the husbands, the wife, the kids, the grandparents, the cousins, the aunties, the uncles, the cousins, the hospital staff, whoever is there to help you deal with your sight loss. Thank you, because it's a hard transition enough in this world of being different and not being fully capable of something, and to have someone there through thick and thin is a blessing. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week. Bye.